Imagine a night in Pune. The energy palpable.
Oh, yeah?
The music's thumping, the lights painting the scene with vibrant hues.
Sounds pretty lively.
This is Pulse Lounge,
Okay.
one of the city's hottest spots.
Gotcha.
And tonight, it's brimming with celebration, Independence Day 2021.
A night for revelry.
A night for joy, right?
Yeah.
But for Aditya Kapoor, this night would end in tragedy,
Oh, wow.
shocking the entire city.
Really?
Amidst the festive revelry, a simmering tension was brewing, fueled by jealousy, possessiveness, and a lethal dose of ego.
A recipe for disaster.
This is the story of the Pune Nightclub Revenge Killing, a story where love, or perhaps the twisted perception of it,
Yeah.
took a deadly turn.
Wow, this is intense.
Welcome to CrimePod Castle's Twisted Love series.
I'm ready. Let's dive in.
It's fascinating how quickly a celebratory atmosphere can turn sinister.
Isn't it? One moment you're surrounded by laughter and music.
Right?
The next you're caught in a vortex of aggression and violence.
Absolutely. And what's even more intriguing is how often these volatile situations stem from seemingly ordinary relationships.
Yeah, you think it would be strangers.
Right. When we think of crime, we often imagine strangers lurking in the shadows.
Yeah.
But in this case, the perpetrator and the victim were connected,
Oh, really?
entangled in a web of relationships that ultimately led to a fatal confrontation.
It's almost like the relationships themselves become the weapon.
To understand this tragedy, we need to delve into the lives of the people involved.
Absolutely. Let's start with the victim.
Aditya Kapoor.
Aditya Kapoor, okay?
He was 28 years old, a successful marketing professional with a bright future.
Sounds like he had a lot going for him.
He did. Friends described him as charismatic, fun-loving, full of life.
The kind of person who lights up a room?
Exactly. But on that fateful night, he became the target of someone who perceived him as a rival, an obstacle in his path to love.
Wow, that's awful.
Or at least what he perceived as love.
It's almost always about perception, isn't it?
It really is. And that brings us to Rohan Malhotra, our perpetrator.
Rohan Malhotra. Okay.
A 30-year-old entrepreneur, driven and successful in his own right.
So, outwardly successful, but maybe something darker underneath?
It seems so.
Yeah.
Beneath that veneer of success lurked a deep-seated insecurity,
I see.
a possessiveness that would ultimately lead to a terrible act of violence.
That's a common thread we see in many of these cases, isn't it?
It is this need to control, this perception of love as a possession,
Yeah.
a prize to be won or fought over.
It's a dangerous mindset.
It really is. And let's not forget the woman at the center of this twisted triangle, Neha Sharma,
Okay, Neha Sharma.
a 27-year-old HR executive. She was a friend to both Aditya and Rohan.
Oh, wow. So entangled in their lives already.
But it was her connection with Aditya that seemed to fuel Rohan's jealousy and rage.
It sounds like a classic love triangle scenario.
It does. From the information gathered, it seems Rohan had feelings for Neha, but those feelings were unrequited.
The age-old story, but with such tragic consequences in this case.
So we have our key players. Aditya, full of life. Rohan, consumed by jealousy. And Neha, caught in the crossfire of their emotions.
Gotcha.
Now let's rewind to that night, August 15th, 2021, at Pulse Lounge.
Back to the scene of the crime.
Aditya, Neha, and their friends were there celebrating a colleague's promotion.
Sounds like a fun night.
It was. The atmosphere was festive, the music was pumping, and everyone was in high spirits.
Before it all went wrong?
And it's here that the undercurrents of tension began to surface.
Oh.
Rohan was also at the club that night,
Oh.
and according to eyewitness accounts, he was visibly agitated.
I see. What tipped them off?
His gaze was fixated on Aditya and Neha as they laughed and danced together.
Ah, the green-eyed monster rearing its head.
Witnesses described him as being intoxicated, which likely amplified his feelings of jealousy and resentment.
Alcohol often acts as a catalyst in these situations, doesn't it?
It does. It lowers inhibitions, fuels aggression,
Right.
and impairs judgment.
Yeah, like pouring gasoline on a smoldering fire.
Exactly. And in this case, it seems that alcohol played a significant role in escalating the situation.
So what happened? Did Rohan confront Aditya?
He did. Fueled by a potent mix of alcohol and envy, Rohan approached Aditya's group.
Oh boy, this can't be good.
And that's when the verbal fireworks began. He hurled accusations at Aditya,
What kind of accusations?
his words laced with anger and resentment.
So from a festive celebration, the atmosphere shifted dramatically.
It did. What was the nature of this argument? What were they saying to each other?
I'm all ears. From what we've gathered, the argument initially revolved around Neha. Rohan was accusing Aditya of trying to steal her away,
Really?
of disrespecting him by being close to her.
Oh, so just a lot of ego and jealousy at play?
It was a public spectacle, fueled by ego, possessiveness,
Yeah.
and fueled by the alcohol coursing through their veins.
Oh, wow.
Lowering inhibitions.
It must have been an awkward, intense situation for everyone around them.
Oh, absolutely.
A public display of aggression like that can quickly turn ugly.
Absolutely. And thankfully, the club's security personnel recognized the potential for danger
Oh, right.
and intervened. They separated the two men,
Good.
escorting Rohan outside in an attempt to de-escalate the situation.
So they thought that would be the end of it?
You would think that.
You would assume that cooler heads would prevail?
Right.
That Rohan would walk away? Maybe even regret his outburst.
Exactly.
But sadly, that's not what happened.
No, unfortunately not.
This is where Rohan's actions take a truly dark turn.
Oh, what happened?
Instead of letting the argument go, he waited outside the club,
Oh.
consumed by a cocktail of rage, jealousy, and alcohol.
That's a dangerous mix.
It really is.
So the security's intervention, while well-intentioned,
Yeah.
didn't diffuse the situation.
Right.
It seems to have just pushed it to a boiling point.
What happened next?
Around 1:30 a.m., Aditya and his friends emerged from the club,
Okay.
ready to head home after a night of celebration.
Yeah.
Little did they know that danger was lurking just outside.
Shrouded in the darkness.
It's chilling to think about.
It is. One moment, they're inside, caught up in the music and camaraderie,
Yeah.
and the next, they're thrust into a nightmare.
It's a stark reminder that violence can erupt anywhere.
Anytime. Shattering the illusion of safety we often cling to.
It's a tragic illustration of how quickly a situation can spiral out of control.
Right.
As Aditya and his friends stepped out into the cool night air,
Okay.
Rohan emerged from the shadows, and this time,
Oh.
he was armed.
Oh, no. What did he have?
He had gone to his car and retrieved a knife.
Oh, my goodness. That's a chilling detail.
It is.
The fact that he went back to his car, retrieved a weapon, suggests a level of premeditation.
Right.
It wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment act of anger.
Right.
It seems like he was waiting for Aditya, that he had a plan.
That's the question that haunted the subsequent investigation and trial.
Well-
Was this a premeditated act, or was it a crime of passion?
Right.
Fueled by a volatile mix of alcohol, jealousy, and rage.
It's hard to say for sure.
The prosecution argued that Rohan's actions, particularly the retrieval of the weapon, clearly indicated intent to kill. But the defense countered, claiming it was a spontaneous act, a tragic consequence of impaired judgment and heightened emotions.
So the act of retrieving the knife became a pivotal point of contention.
It did.
It's fascinating how a single action can hold so much weight in a legal case.
Yeah.
But what about the attack itself?
Sure.
Can you paint a picture of what happened that night?
Witnesses described a scene of chaos and terror.
Oh, God.
Rohan, consumed by rage, lunged at Aditya, stabbing him multiple times.
Oh, my gosh.
The attack was swift and brutal,
Oh, awful.
leaving Aditya's friends stunned and horrified.
It's heartbreaking to imagine the panic and helplessness they must have felt.
Yeah.
To see their friends, someone they cared about,
Yeah.
attacked so violently.
Some attempted to intervene to pull Rohan away, but
Right.
his fury was relentless.
Were there any security cameras that captured the attack?
Yes. Fortunately, the club had a robust CCTV system,
Okay.
and the footage captured the entire sequence of events,
Okay.
from the initial argument inside the club to the fatal confrontation outside.
Wow, so they had everything.
The footage became a crucial piece of evidence,
Right.
providing a visual record of Rohan's actions and corroborating witness testimonies.
It's a stark reminder that in this digital age, our actions are often recorded.
Scrutinized.
In this case, the footage served as a silent witness,
Yeah.
providing an irrefutable account of what transpired that night.
And the forensic evidence further solidified the case against Rohan.
What did they find?
The knife, recovered from his car, bore traces of Aditya's blood
Oh, wow.
and Rohan's fingerprints.
So pretty clear link.
It was a damning link
A knock.
connecting him directly to the crime.
So a web of evidence began to weave around Rohan.
It did.
Eyewitness accounts, CCTV footage, forensic analysis.
Mm-hmm.
It all pointed to him as the perpetrator.
It did.
What happened next? Did the police apprehend him?
The police acted swiftly and decisively.
Okay.
They launched a manhunt, utilizing all available resources to track Rohan down.
Wow, so they were serious about catching him.
They were.
Where did they find him?
He was eventually apprehended at a relative's house,
Okay.
where he was hiding out.
Do you think he realized the magnitude of his actions at that point?
That's hard to say.
Yeah.
Was he remorseful, or was he still caught in the grip of anger and denial?
I guess we'll never really know for sure.
During interrogation, Rohan confessed to the crime,
He did.
but claimed he acted in a moment of rage,
Okay.
that he hadn't intended to kill Aditya.
So a crime of passion, not premeditation.
Whether that confession reflected genuine remorse
Right.
or a calculated legal strategy is open to interpretation.
It's fascinating how a confession can be both a powerful admission of guilt and a carefully crafted narrative designed to mitigate consequences.
It is.
It speaks to the complex interplay between law, psychology, and personal responsibility.
It does.
But with a confession in hand, did that bring a swift end to the investigation?
Not quite. While a confession is a significant piece of the puzzle,
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily negate the need for a thorough investigation.
Of course.
The police continue to gather evidence, interview witnesses, and build a comprehensive case for the prosecution.
They wanted to make sure they got it right.
They wanted to leave no stone unturned to ensure that justice would be served.
Absolutely. And for Aditya's family and friends, it was more than just apprehending Rohan.
Right.
It was about seeking justice, holding someone accountable for this senseless act of violence.
It's a common sentiment in cases like this, isn't it?
It is. The desire for justice, for a sense of closure, for a recognition of the loss and the pain inflicted.
Yeah.
The trial was still to come.
Right.
And that's where the legal battle would play out.
Exactly.
Where the evidence would be presented, the arguments made, and a verdict delivered.
Yeah.
It's a stage where emotions run high, where narratives clash.
Right.
And where the pursuit of justice intersects with the complexities of human behavior.
Precisely. And in the case of the Pune Nightclub Revenge Killing,
Yeah.
the trial became a high-profile event,
Really?
drawing significant media attention and sparking conversations about toxic masculinity, unchecked aggression, and the consequences of letting emotions spiral out of control.
It's a case that raises so many questions about the nature of love,
Right.
jealousy, and the dark side of human behavior.
It does.
But before we delve into the trial and its aftermath, let's take a moment to consider the victim,
Yeah.
Aditya Kapoor. What can you tell us about him?
Aditya, as we've touched on, was a young man with a promising future ahead of him.
Right, he had his whole life ahead of him.
He was well-liked, ambitious,
Yeah.
and full of life.
It's a reminder that behind the headlines, the legal arguments,
Yeah.
the courtroom drama,
Right.
there's a human being, a life lost, a void left in the lives of those who loved him.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that amidst the legal complexities
Right.
and the societal debates,
Okay.
there's a human tragedy at the heart of this case.
Absolutely.
A young life extinguished,
Yeah.
a family left to grieve,
Right.
and a community left to grapple with the consequences of a senseless act of violence.
So with the stage set,
Yeah.
the evidence gathered,
Right.
and the trial looming, we're left to ponder the question of justice.
A big question.
What will the prosecution argue?
Right.
What will Rohan's defense be?
Yeah.
And most importantly, what will the verdict be?
All good questions.
We'll dive into all of that and more in the next part of our deep dive into the Pune Nightclub Revenge Killing.
Stay tuned, because the story is far from over.
The trial will unfold, the evidence will be weighed, and a verdict will be delivered.
Exactly.
But the impact of this tragedy, the ripples of pain and loss, will continue to reverberate long after the legal proceedings have concluded. The courtroom, it became the stage for a clash of narratives.
A battleground of perspective.
Right, a battle between the prosecution's pursuit of justice and the defense's attempt to, I guess, mitigate the consequences of a terrible act.
Trying to soften the blow.
Yeah, it's a space where the stark reality of a crime intersects with the complexities of human behavior, the law, and the pursuit of truth.
It's a fascinating intersection.
It really is. So the prosecution, they painted a picture of a man driven by jealousy and possessiveness.
A classic motive, unfortunately.
Right. A man who, fueled by alcohol and rage, deliberately took another life.
They're going for a strong conviction here.
They are. They meticulously presented the evidence, the eyewitness accounts, the CCTV footage, the forensic analysis.
This painting a clear picture.
All pointing towards a premeditated act of violence.
So premeditation is key to their argument.
It was. They emphasized Rohan's retrieval of the knife from his car as the key indicator of intent.
Yeah, that action speaks volumes.
A chilling detail that suggested a plan.
Absolutely.
A conscious decision to inflict harm.
It's a powerful argument, isn't it?
It is the idea that a single action, that decision to arm himself,
right,
could speak volumes about his state of mind.
His intentions.
But the defense countered, didn't they?
They did. They had their work cut out for them.
What was their strategy?
Well, they faced an uphill battle.
Right.
The weight of the evidence against Rohan was substantial.
Yeah.
Their strategy focused on mitigating the severity of the charges,
Okay.
on shifting the narrative from cold-blooded murder to a crime of passion, a tragic consequence of a moment of madness.
A moment of madness, right?
They argued that Rohan, consumed by a potent mix of alcohol, jealousy, and emotional distress, had acted impulsively without a clear plan or intent to kill.
Okay, so basically temporary insanity.
They presented him as a man who had snapped under pressure. His judgment clouded, his actions driven by a temporary loss of control.
So a classic defense tactic.
It is.
To humanize the perpetrator.
Right, make him seem less like a monster and more like a flawed individual who made a terrible mistake.
But did the jury buy it?
That was the million-dollar question.
Right.
The jury deliberated for days, carefully weighing the evidence, the arguments, and the conflicting narratives.
It must have been a tough decision.
It was a complex case with a lot of emotional weight.
So what was the verdict?
In the end, they reached a verdict.
Okay.
Rohan Malhotra was found guilty of second-degree murder.
Second-degree murder.
So not premeditated murder, as the prosecution had argued.
It seems the jury acknowledged the element of passion, of a temporary loss of control.
They did, but he was still held accountable for his actions.
For the taking of a life.
Absolutely.
What was the sentence?
The judge sentenced Rohan Malhotra to 20 years in prison.
20 years.
A significant sentence reflecting the gravity of the crime. And the court's recognition of the need for justice.
It sent a message that acts of violence, even those fueled by passion, have severe consequences.
They do. Actions have consequences no matter the circumstances.
20 years, that's a long time.
It is a significant portion of his life.
It's a stark reminder that actions have consequences. That even in moments of intense emotion, we are responsible for our choices.
Absolutely.
For the harm we inflict on others.
We can't escape the repercussions of our actions.
But what about the others involved in this tragedy?
Right. What about Neha?
What happened to Neha?
Neha Sharma was, in many ways, the catalyst for this tragic chain of events.
Yeah, she was caught in the middle.
A friend to both the victim and the perpetrator.
The emotional toll on her must have been immense.
Absolutely. To witness the violent clash between two men who, in some way, both cared for her.
Right.
To lose a friend in such a horrific manner, it's a burden no one should have to bear.
It's a tragic reminder that even when we're not directly involved in a crime, we can still be deeply affected by its ripple effects.
Right.
By the pain and loss it leaves in its wake.
The trauma can spread far and wide.
Did she ever speak publicly about what happened?
Yes, she did, after a period of silence and healing.
Okay.
Neha emerged as a powerful advocate for raising awareness about the dangers of toxic masculinity.
Really?
Possessiveness and violence.
Wow, that's amazing.
She shared her story, her pain, and her journey toward healing.
Tried to help others.
Encouraging others to recognize the warning signs of unhealthy relationships. And to seek help before it's too late.
Turning her pain into something positive.
She turned her tragedy into a platform for change. A voice for those who have suffered in silence.
It's an incredibly powerful transformation.
It is.
To channel such profound grief and trauma into a force for good.
A testament to her strength and resilience.
It speaks to the resilience of the human spirit, the ability to find meaning and purpose even in the darkest of times.
Finding light in the darkness.
Did this case lead to any changes in the way nightclubs in Pune operate?
Yes, it did.
Really? What kind of changes?
The Pune Nightclub Revenge Killing served as a wake-up call for many establishments in the city.
Okay.
In the aftermath of the tragedy, many nightclubs implemented stricter security measures.
What did they do?
Enhancing their surveillance system, increasing security personnel, and developing clearer protocols for handling altercations and identifying potentially dangerous behavior.
So a tangible impact. A move towards creating safer environments.
Absolutely.
It's a step in the right direction.
It is.
A recognition that businesses, especially those that serve alcohol,
Right.
have a responsibility to ensure the safety and well-being of their patrons.
It's about creating a culture of responsibility.
And it's also a testament to the power of collective action.
Absolutely.
The way a single tragedy can spark a movement for change.
One event can have far-reaching consequences.
But as we wrap up this deep dive, are there any other key takeaways?
I think there are several.
Okay, what lessons can we glean from this tragic story?
First and foremost, it underscores the urgent need to address toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity, yeah.
We need to challenge the cultural norms that glorify aggression, dominance, and the suppression of emotions in men.
It's about redefining what it means to be a man.
We need to create spaces where men can express their feelings healthily, seek help when needed, and learn nonviolent ways of resolving conflict.
It's about recognizing that true strength lies not in aggression, but in empathy, compassion, and the courage to be vulnerable.
Precisely. Another key takeaway is the importance of promoting emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence, right? Being in tune with your feelings and the feelings of others.
This involves being aware of our own emotions, understanding how they impact our behavior, and learning how to manage them effectively.
It's about developing empathy, compassion, and the ability to see things from different perspectives.
Absolutely. These skills are crucial for building healthy relationships and navigating conflict constructively.
Emotional intelligence is like a superpower, isn't it?
It is a superpower for good.
It can help us diffuse tense situations, communicate effectively, and build bridges instead of walls.
Exactly. And finally, this case highlights the importance of early intervention.
Early intervention, what do you mean?
If you see someone struggling with anger, jealousy, or other destructive emotions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, reach out. Offer support.
Offer support. Encourage them to seek professional help. And let them know they're not alone.
Sometimes just being there for someone can make all the difference.
Sometimes a simple act of kindness or a listening ear can make all the difference.
It's about breaking the cycle of silence and shame that often surrounds mental health issues.
Absolutely.
Especially for men.
It's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to ask for help.
We need to create a culture where it's okay to ask for help, where seeking support is seen as a sign of strength, not weakness.
Strength and vulnerability.
Well, this deep dive has been incredibly insightful, but also deeply saddening.
It is a heavy story, but important to tell.
It's a story that will stay with me for a long time.
Me too.
The Pune Nightclub Revenge Killing is a tragedy on many levels.
It is.
It's a reminder of the fragility of life. The devastating consequences of unchecked emotions. And the urgent need to address the root causes of violence in our society.
It's a call to action for all of us.
It's a story that demands reflection, conversation, and action.
You can't let it be just another headline.
We can't afford to ignore the lessons it offers.
Agree.
We owe it to Aditya Kapoor, to Neha Sharma, and to ourselves to learn from this tragedy.
Absolutely.
And work towards creating a world where such senseless acts of violence become a thing of the past.
A world where empathy and understanding prevail.
It's a vision worth fighting for. And for more captivating stories of twisted love, obsession, and deadly consequences, be sure to subscribe to CrimePod Castle.
And don't forget to follow us on YouTube for additional content and to join our community of crime enthusiasts.
Stay curious, stay safe, and as always, stay vigilant.